On today's episode of The Glue Guys, we are joined by Alex Schiffer of The Athletic to talk about the hottest team in the NBA, your Brooklyn Nets.
Alex, get us into it. Say something. Fired. Instant fire.
Fast enough. I couldn't think fast enough. Yeah.
That wasn't a bit, people. That was literally Alex not thinking of something.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to The Glue Guys. God damn it, Alex.
Intro me in.
Are you going to do the show? Are you here?
Go ahead.
Well, this is going to be in the show. Welcome back to The Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, netsdaily.com. The Athletic. Get yourself on the paywall at theathletic.com/glueguys, a subsidiary of the New York Times. Brian?
Michael and Alex.
Alex Schiffer's back.
Wow.
Alex Schiffer's here. Hey, Alex. Are you here?
Instead, you introducing me the way you say the Nets are back, Alex Schiffer is back, but I shouldn't. You getting that kind of emotional for me is just not in your being.
Well, I'm glad we could fit this in with your busy TV schedule, Alex. I'm glad we could accommodate your busy schedule of being on TV all the time. So thank you for spending some time with this little old podcast of ours. I appreciate it very much.
Alex, can I also say?
Go ahead, Brian. You can say whatever you want. You know, I
was going to say I appreciated your tete-a-tete with Kyrie about Groundhog Day too. Have we gotten any traction on that? It feels like there needs to be a petition to get Kyrie to watch that because it could change everything. I feel like that movie could change the whole worldview, everything.
I haven't been able to ask him yet, but okay. I'm really glad you brought that up because for as much crap as that interaction I took from that interaction from the other reporters and whatnot, I knew you guys would appreciate it because it was a good movie reference.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. If I could just say, by the way, Mike made it seem like I'm too busy for you guys. I'll come on whenever. I want the people to know that Mike can't wait to get rid of me sometimes. He'll just cold call me. You want to pod today? As if I schedule my whole life around him. And when I say I got other things going on, oh well, we'll just do it a few more weeks. And it's like that SpongeBob tone, a few weeks later, phone's still not ringing or anything, right? Another good reference. I'm on a roll. Let's talk about the Nets. Yeah.
Well, Brian knows the relationship I have with people is it's always on my time. And I disregard all other people's schedules for what fits into my schedule.
The best part is too, if you give him a little bit of pushback, it's not, that doesn't work. It give you a time slot of I can do 5 p.m. on Wednesday night and nothing else. And if you push back on that, woe to you. Yeah. Yeah.
You've been able to get a wife and kids by operating like that. You give me hope.
Yeah.
Alex, there's an odd thing that's happening where the first few words of each sentence or each time you pop back on, it is quiet, and then your sound raises up. Well, here's what I want you to do. Okay? I want you to mute yourself and go into your Zoom settings and see if there's some background noise suppression or something that is on in the settings and turn that off, because if you do, it's going to be fixed. Do you think you can handle that? Okay. So Alex has muted himself. Brian, this is in the show. Okay. Don't you worry about it. Anyways, Brian, Alex will jump back in a sec. But we saw a basketball game. Another dub, a last second end of the game, tense interaction dub against another injured team. How excited are you that the Nets are now 10 in a row, double-digit win streak, one of the greatest win streaks in the history of the NBA?
These are the wins. Mike, that give me real hope. I know these are the ones that people like to pick and prod at and be like, oh, the Patty Mills, Seth Curry rotation minutes, that was disgusting, and they were, that was not a good situation. That's fine. We can do all that, but at the end of it, despite all the disgustingness of that Atlanta Hawks game, getting the dub at the end, that's what really, it's a binary at the end of the day, Mike. And we're winning the games that we sometimes shouldn't even be winning, and that's the hallmark of potentially a contending team, Michael Smeltz.
Alex Schiffer, you there?
Settings, it was not an option.
That's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I have a question for you, Alex. So I've been thinking about this a lot. Um, Steve Nash, who, by the way, Raja Bell tweeted out a photo of him, Boris Diaw, and Steve Nash all together at a bar, and them saying something like, "I love these guys," and they were drinking Montauk beers. So I'm guessing. I mean, Montauk beer is now prevalent along many parts of this country, but everything that they were drinking was a Montauk, whatever, that beer company.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if they were in the Hamptons. They may not have been. My question to you, Alex, is Steve Nash got a lot of gruff for his substitution patterns, and of the many things that you could be upset about Steve Nash with, that was one of them. Now, Jacques Vaughn has had some very interesting substitution patterns. He has ridden the hot hand at times. There's been odd lineups, which I enjoy, times when it's like Yuta, TJ Warren, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Royce O'Neal all out there at the same time. People like that, obviously KD and Kyrie are getting played many, many minutes in the Hawks game. KD, Royce O'Neal, Nick Claxton, and Kyrie all got more than 35 minutes in that game. Do you think that Jacques Vaughn is doing a better job of balancing who he plays than Steve Nash? Or do you think that because the Nets are winning, we're just not paying attention to the rotation patterns?
Because when I've been asked to talk about the differences between Vaughn and Steve, Jacques Vaughn's previous coaching experience has really shown, and Steve Nash's inexperience has as well in the recent weeks since Jacques Vaughn got the reins for good, right? I mean, I think you can definitely tell Jacques got a better feel for that stuff in general. But I also think it's tough to kind of evaluate some of this because better hand. And I mean, have the Nets ever had these guys healthy and this kind of continuity under Steve Nash that Jacques Vaughn has had? I mean, I think you can't really evaluate the situation without taking that into account, right? So, but that being said, I do think that you see, obviously there was a talk about Kyrie waving off Steve Nash at times toward the end. If that happened with Jacques, you see him pull the quick timeout. So I just think that, Steve was very big on kind of letting players figure it out for themselves. And I think that is still a big part of coaching, but I think that Jacques has had a better feel whether it's coming to rotations or when to call timeout, all that stuff of like just having a better feel for, I gave this group, I gave this guy, I gave this, whether it's the backcourt, the front court, whatever. I think that he's just had a better feel for when to pull a guy versus when to let him go. And you've kind of seen the game flows significantly impacted by that.
And I don't want to engage in Steve Nash apologia. That's not what I'm here to do. I was scraping through the Nets Daily Comments section, a treasure trove of credible information. One guy, the great Bambi, I'm trying to do better. 2023 goals is to cite my sources on stuff. Some guy did a lot of research on minutes distribution this season versus previous seasons. Data point for us. The three-man lineup of Simmons, Irving, and Durant has played together for 358 minutes and are currently net plus 10 points per 100 possessions. Okay, one part of the data.
We could have checked this at nba.com/stats.
We can counterfactual with that if we want. I'm too lazy for that, but that's for the viewers' engagement. Including the playoffs, Durant, Irving, and Harden played together for a total of 365 minutes. So we're basically 7 minutes away from matching the entire totality of the Durant, Irving, Harden epoch of Nets basketball. So part of why I bring that up in this conversation is like, how much exposure did Steve Nash actually have? How much consistency was he given? I get it. I thought his rotations were bad. I thought there's a million things to criticize Steve Nash over, but also just throw it into the conversation. I don't want to be a squeaky wheel here, but like, was he given the opportunity to our estimation? I put it to you guys.
That's to you, Alex, I think, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I I think first off, that's a great stat, assuming it's correct.
Yeah.
No offense, Brian. If I use the comment section as the basis of my reporting, I'd probably be taking your order at the McDonald's behind Barclays Center.
There was a thread
Um,
about whether it was true or not, and he did cite his sources. So I waited for that thread to get a little bit more mature before I brought it to the podcast. So
me, that kind of that really quantifies though that Jacques Vaughn has had these guys healthy for essentially a month and change. If you want to, I mean, the Kyrie suspension, a month and a half, the Kyrie suspension, the Ben Simmons, a couple of his injuries. I mean, to me, it just kind of shows just how little the Harden, Kyrie, and Durant trio played together. That you could get to the first, 2.5 months of an NBA season with some injuries and attrition, and it's still more than what Steve Nash had over, a year and a half of Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. So that, I mean, when you put them up against each other like that, that just kind of shows how limited his time was with those three together. But I think that Steve Nash had a crazy hand and something unlike anything any other NBA coaches had to deal with, and you can't really compare him and Jacques Vaughn without factoring that in. I also think, though, just based on who you talk to and everything else, that like Jacques Vaughn has clearly gotten more out of this group than Steve Nash would have at full strength, just based on what we've seen and how the guys have responded and whatnot.
Yeah, I think there's no. I mean, I'm really gonna try to be polite. I don't know why Steve Nash brings this out of me, and the fact that like I pull my punches just slightly for him, maybe because I understand the situation that he was constantly being put in by injuries and outside controversy and vaccine mandates and trade requests and all that stuff. And so I am partly sympathetic to the job that he had to carry out with the Brooklyn Nets. And I do think that there was some good that he did. But as a tactician, as a guy who was a puppet master for this team, he was a bad basketball coach. Bad. And he may become a good basketball coach if he wants to coach again. I don't know. He doesn't seem like, I don't know if he has a burning desire to get back into it because it was probably so tough for him. And he didn't seem like a guy who really wanted to coach to begin with, frankly. It seemed sort of like he was hopping on to a situation that he thought could be the best coaching possibility for him, and it immediately became corrupted by various forces. As an in-game coach, as a pre-game motivator, and a guy who, in Jacques Vaughn, who I'm talking about here, Alex, you talk to the players about this a lot. Jacques has just simplified things to such a clear degree that it is obvious that is helping this team. I mean, I, a caveman when it comes to basketball concepts, can see what the Nets are doing on offense, right? Which is essentially give KD and Kyrie the ball to start a possession. If nothing happens immediately, let's move the ball, find an open shot. If that doesn't happen, let's give it back to them at the end of the possession, and hopefully they do something nice with it. Rarely is there an intricate play run that gets multiple guys open at various points. It's not like, like Kenny Atkinson. I think he was underrated as a guy who could do that. He had a lot of very nice out of timeout plays. He had a system that clearly works, particularly for point guards. Jock is just a better coach right now for this team. He understands what those guys needed. And I don't. It's funny that we're on this like Steve Nash, Jacques Vaughn, and I apologize. I feel like I put us on that track. But I actually did have a question going into this, Alex, which was, if you're giving out credit pie, okay, you have a big, delicious, crusty pie in front of you. It's a credit pie, okay, and you're doling out slices to various people. Who gets the biggest slice of credit pie? Jacques Vaughn, Kyrie, KD, let's say Sean Marks. I don't think you can really put Joe Tsai in terms of needing a mouth to feed in this scenario. Who gets the most credit for what is happening this 10-game win streak?
Now, I would kind of divide it into thirds and give a third to Jacques Vaughn, a third to Sean Marks for the roster construction, and A third to honestly like the athletic staff and not my colleagues, but the Nets athletic staff and um again because like they've had a very good wave of health, all things considered. It hasn't been a thing like a. I know he's out right now with knee soreness, but a Joe Harris thing last year where like Ben Simmons is out, and you wonder is it going to cycle into like do games become weeks and then months, etc. Like these guys have gotten back and healthy pretty quickly. They've had a good run with all that. Honestly, like a question I've kind of wondered about because you mentioned the Harden thing is like because Ben Simmons has been a good supporting member right now. I don't think you could say he's been a star alongside Kyrie and Kevin with the way they've been playing. But the thing that I've kind of wondered about with the way that the team has looked is what would that Nets team before the first Harden trade would have looked like if this is what the runway they got was. Because I think it's built very similarly in that you have Katie and Kyrie, and then you have a lot of good pieces around them and an established center in Jared Allen. Nick Claxton isn't playing awesome, but I've kind of thought a lot about that lately, just in that everyone keeps talking about, with the Harden rumors of him going back to Houston. You know, the jury's still out with the Nets and the Sixers, but I feel like the way that this team is built for these guys to help around Kevin and Kyrie has been a very big piece to all this. As Ben Simmons has kind of grown into his own, and so that's why I've kind of divided in thirds. This is nothing on Kevin and Kyrie, but they're doing what they usually do, right? Like they're shooting at tremendous percentages and scoring wherever they want on the court. I think that was more expected than the other three things. T.J. Warren was an unknown. Edmund Sumner was coming off an Achilles. Nabi's been maybe the best non-guaranteed contract ever. So I think that, that's why I divide in thirds the way I have, because, Jacques Vaughn was a bit of an unknown since the bubble and the Orlando time coming in. The athletic staff, we've seen all the injuries and whatnot. Obviously, some that's out of their jurisdiction. But yeah, that's why I went the way I did.
Yeah, I think it's going to be controversial, Alex, that you're leaving KD, maybe Kyrie, but KD without a piece of pie. I think that's a controversial decision. MVP candidate, plays 38 minutes a game or whatever he plays. I think you need to think about slicing up a piece of pie for KD.
He's welcome to have a slice of pie from whoever he wants, but what he was doing, like the percentages are what they are, ridiculously high compared to most players. But I think people forget a year ago this team was kind of where it is now, right towards the top of the conference, with Kevin and James taking the heavy minute loads to win games, just like Kevin and Kyrie are. I don't think that it's a knock because you could argue if Kevin doesn't get hurt the past 2 years, he's right there in the MVP race to begin with. That's why I just think that this is what we've come to expect from him, given the way he's played. I don't think I'm insulting him at all.
Well, I'm glad most people who insult people don't think they are insulting people. You know what I mean? It's like bad guys don't understand they're bad guys, Alex. So it's fine. I'll send this to Kevin and make sure that he knows that you're the reporter who thinks he deserves zero credit for what has happened with the Nets. Anyways, Alex.
I sometimes hate you, Mike. Why are you friends with this guy, Brian?
We've got a show together. Can't let
Isn't
the show
it
go.
this very reason? Yeah, this thing. Anyway, actually, I'll let you go. I know you have to powder your nose for TV, so I appreciate you. And also, your audio's going a little crazy. But
you're going to insult my argument, not counter, then kick me off stage.
Classic.
I do
Happy New Year to you too, man.
I do appreciate your time. We'll get you on for a longer time.
Respond. No. I'm not going anywhere.
Alex,
respond.
I so appreciate your time that you are here today. And that you took all this time out of your busy schedule to spend a corner of a piece of pie with us. That's what I really appreciate about you. Thank you.
The next time I see you.
What did he say?
I think he says he's going to punch you in the face.
Next time he sees me?
I said I'm going to put the pie in your face the next time I see you. We don't need to I don't choose violence, boys.
Okay. Pie. Exactly.
Don't threaten Mike with a good time. Come on.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I want to do. Make it a lemon meringue, and I'm there for it. All right, Alex. Authentically, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Are you there?
Let's get that beer soon.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get it.
All right. Brian. Let's do a quick break. Coming back.
Mm-hmm.
more Nets content.
Yeah.
A few moments later.
In the next section, are you going to talk about my credit pie, or are you going to just pretend I never was on the show?
Do we want to talk about credit, Brian?
I mean, it's really you who needs to address this controversy. Like, I leave it to you.
I mean, Alex, it's crazy that you don't give Kevin Durant credit. It's crazy. It's insane. The guy's, having one of the great offensive seasons or stretches in the history of the NBA.
He's clearly balking at the structure of the debate. Like, that's where you guys are missing each other. If I can play, diplomacy here.
I don't think so. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you like Kevin Durant. I think that's what it is, Alex.
Yeah, because he just gave me the only exclusive on the beat this year. I can't stand the guy.
Yeah.
My whole argument for it is, I would argue that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the way they've played this year, is the least biggest surprise compared to the other things I named. In terms of, if you were to say at the beginning of the year, would Kevin and Kyrie play this way? Would Jacques Vaughn be this good of a coach? Would Sean Marks' limited roster moves work in their favor? And would the Nets be able to stay healthy? I would argue you would bet that the way Kevin and Kyrie are playing is the least biggest surprise, right? Like, that's kind of my argument for it, is that them playing the way they have, to me, is been a proven commodity before. There's been more doubts on the other three things. Than those two.
I think you should let me include this in this little bit into the pod.
Yeah, this is going to make the final cut for sure.
Yes.
Okay, let me do that, and then I'll edit. It'll make it sound good, and because you would just be laughed off the internet, Alex. This is it would have been embarrassing. You would have been George Santos.
If I had an MVP ballot, I would totally put Kevin on it right now. That's without question. But again, Sean Marks had a bunch of non-guaranteed, 1-year veteran minimum deals. Some of those are a toss-up. They've all really worked out well. The athletic staff, again, has had all these injuries to deal with in past years. And Jacques Vaughn had previously coached the team that was rebuilding until it kind of was in Orlando and a glorified G League team in the bubble. So I think that they have kind of raised their game more than Kevin and Kyrie have. This is their game. They're amazing.
If I could, this is the reason why Kevin Durant deserves credit pie, because now this may seem odd, but he could have easily have folded and thrown in his I want a trade request card when all the Kyrie stuff was happening, when Kyrie was banned from the team. And I actually think there were many people writing that the team should be blown up, many prominent basketball writers. And I think I said it on the show because I never thought Kyrie would play basketball for the Nets again because, I watched the documentary and I read the book based on the documentary. But Kyrie is back. Kevin persisted. Kevin led this team through victories while Kyrie was out. And Durant is doing, for the first time, I think he may disagree with me. He is being a leader for the first time since he's come to Brooklyn. He's exhibiting signs of leadership that we haven't seen. I don't know why it took this long. Maybe it's just simply that they're winning and it seems like he's a leader, and maybe that's inauthentic to believe that by my account. But he is doing sort of the extra things. He's taking on defensive assignments that, not that he hadn't done it before, but that are important to do. He's guided this team. He's played all the minutes possible, basically, to get victories, to get dubs. He is unlike a lot of superstars where he doesn't sit out games. He sat out one game, got a dub. I think I agree. I do really like your premise that, in fact, that Kevin Durant is great and we should expect greatness. And it's not like he's that much greater than what he has been in the past when he's healthy. Like I appreciate that mindset. I still think you have to give credit where credit is due, and he deserves a slice of pie. I think he deserves. I don't know if Kyrie does. I think it's a better debate.
I think we gotta structure a formal debate. But this is good content, and I think I'd like to moderate a formal debate between Mike Smeltz and Alex Schiffer for the next episode.
Alex, you want to do that?
That's fair. How about if we can include this too? How about I amend my pie to quarters? Katie,
No.
Sean, Jacques, and
No.
the training staff.
No, absolutely not. No, you've already doled out your pieces of pie. You can't each go to then to Jock Vaughn, Sean Marks, and the athletic staff and say, "Can I get a third of your pie?" Because I'm going to cobble those 3 pieces of thirds together to make a quarter for Kevin. That's not how That's not how this works. You already doled out your pie.
You don't know their appetites. What if they they got full after a little bit?
I think it's insulting that you think Kevin Durant wants leftovers like that. I don't think so. The man deserves better than leftovers from you, Alex. But you have to cover him on a daily basis, so you'll have to live with that decision. We will figure out a proper time to debate when and where, and the person who loses the debate, Brian, will get a pie thrown in their face.
Okay,
I think that's
good deal.
what we should do. Okay,
How's it going to be determined who wins and loses? Is it all Brian? Because I'll just pay him off if that's the case.
True. I do have sticky fingers too. So anybody, bank is open.
All right, Alex, thank you for joining the show.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me go on better terms than that.
Okay.
Later, Alex. We'll get that beer, buddy.
Yes, please amend my final credit pie. By the way,
It'll be amended. Don't worry. And we're back, Brian.
Yeah, good to be back.
I was going to do this with Alex, but we just had gotten into that debate about credit pie.
And then you kicked him off the show unceremoniously. Yeah.
So I do have 3 questions. So I pulled these questions, Alex, on The Athletic. If you're a subscriber to The Athletic, one of the benefits is that writers will often do live blog Q&As where readers can ask questions, direct questions.
Wow.
So I have 3 questions from Athletic subscribers to Alex that Alex answered on The Athletic.
Okay.
That I'm bringing to you and for us to answer.
Oh, okay.
The first one is from Matt W. Matt W. here.
We're just
It's your
poaching.
boy.
We're poaching his questions. I love that. You're really dogging Schiffer today. We're in rare form.
How likely do you think a notable trade is? I can certainly see the arguments for standing pat given how they are playing. However, I think Seth, Cam, Sharp are certainly expendable. I think if I look at this question, I think the word notable.
That's what I was just going to key into. Notable's tricky.
What's the level of notable? Is it a guy who averages 25 minutes a game? Is that a notable trade?
And I was just my New Year's. It's not 2023 yet, so I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway. There was a guest on Zach Lowe's most recent podcast talking about how Jakob Poeltl is most eminently tradable asset. Is that notable? Does that raise to the level of notability? It's really fringe at that point.
I think Jakob Poeltl's above notable. I think he's potable,
yeah.
notable potables.
Okay.
I think he is worthy because if you get Jakob Poeltl, you are kind of assessing whether he's a starting center or a backup center. He's playing significant minutes for you. Significant to me being about 20 minutes per game, 25. I think that raises above. That's a guy who's a regular in your rotation. He plays with the starters at times. Maybe he plays in the clutch if he's playing well. He's playing mins. And we've talked in the past. There are trades that are possible. I wonder what the Wizards are going to do. Beal has a hamstring injury again. Kuzma is saying he's going to opt out of his deal. Anyways, doesn't mean that he's not going to go back to DC, but if I'm the Wizards, are you paying Beal the highest contract in the NBA, Kristaps what they're paying him, and then Kuzma on $25 million a year, whatever it's going to take? It's going to take a lot, and your team sucks ultimately. It's frisky, but sucks. So if you're the Wizards, do you trade Kristaps or Kuzma?
Yeah, but then what's the prize for the Wizards to stash away or have a product like Cam Thomas? Are we believing that they're high on Cam Thomas?
Well, I still maintain that Ben Simmons would possibly be on the table.
I don't want it anymore. I'm liking my Ben Simmons over Kuzma. I just think it's a gluey fit, Mike. It's feeling gluey to me all of a sudden.
Good for you.
Thanks.
I do. I agree with you, but then it becomes a thing of if Kyle Kuzma's on the team and Ben Simmons isn't, you suddenly have a guy who can put up 15 to 20 points pretty easily, get you rebounds, isn't an awkward, you don't have to accommodate Kyle Kuzma in ultimately kind of the way you have to do Ben Simmons. I'm not advocating for a Ben Simmons trade. I agree with you. I like the gluiness, the tactile nature of a Ben Simmons, the feel of him on this team. I think what's exciting about the team, John Hollinger of The Athletic, a colleague of mine, wrote about the Nets today for the website, theathletic.com.
Wow, prestigious.
And he wrote about how, the Nets, there's two poles that the Nets are standing on. The belief pole and the chemistry one. The belief one, the Nets are there. Like, they have achieved the maximum level of belief, it seems, through Jacques Vaughn, through the 10-game winning streak. The chemistry is still completely random because ultimately KD and Kyrie, they have yet to really play off of each other on a consistent basis. This is John's words. And Ben Simmons is still Ben Simmons. He's not fully formed. To me, that's exciting. To me, it's exciting the fact that this team is number 2 in the East right now because the Milwaukee Bucks suck. And that there's a way higher level of greatness that they can attain because Ben Simmons, if he just gets 15% better, then get 30% better because it's an exponential boost off of just a better Ben Simmons.
And I don't know, I got to look at what TJ Warren's stat line was in the last couple of games. But again, like,
wasn't that good against the Hawks? But yeah, obviously he had, like, what was it, 21 points against?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, I just feel like, and maybe this is underselling Kuzma's intangibles or whatever. I just think we're getting enough of what that is from TJ Warren, which is crazy. I know that's going to sound crazy to people. I know how that sounds. We're not getting the matching level. It's obviously not the same role. But again, you're looking at Kyle Kuzma, who's, playing in the vacuum of Bradley Beal's perpetual injury cycle at the moment. I just feel like it's a guy who knows what he wants to be a little bit better. Like TJ Warren has no seeming like illusions about what his role is at the moment. You bring Kyle Kuzma on there, suddenly now we're slicing the offense pie, Mike, and that can cause a little consternation for people at times.
I think, again, we can debate notable. I think notable trade not happening.
I think it's not happening. To answer that question directly, I think it's not happening.
William T. asks Alex Schiffer of The Athletic, do you see the Nets looking for a big man? And if so, what would that look like in your opinion? And we're going to talk about this constantly to the end of the only thing I want to point out to the listeners is that there's really not that many minutes for a big man. And so I don't think the Nets spend any true resources. Like, we bring up Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl's still going to take resources, whether it's Cam Thomas and a first-round pick, to get Jakob. I mean, that's the going rate for a starting rental player who is, like, pretty good. Jakob Poeltl is pretty good. Nick Claxton is firmly the starting center. There's no, you don't debate that, right? He is the starting center.
Dude, I loved watching, sorry to segue, but just watching DeJounte Murray et al. Try to, like, size him up to ISO. Like, guards trying to ISO Nick Claxton, he just, like, rises to the occasion. He loves that. He loves that challenge.
Yes.
And he eats them up. He gobbles them alive. It's been such a joy. I mean, like, really, I think he's so asserted himself, so firmed himself as the starting center that it's like, it's not even on the table really at the moment.
I agree with you. I think so we obsess over the Embiid stopper, but it's almost like what the Nets are going to look for if they get a big. I think it's going to be a buyout market, or it's going to be a minimal trade where it is like Cam Thomas for whatever, more veteran big who's not really getting any minutes. Maybe it's like JaVale McGee on the Mavericks. He's not playing that much, and it's only to be an insurance policy. And in case shit happens policy, because if Claxton gets hurt, holy shit, they need to make a trade.
Yeah.
Claxton's kind of one of the most important players on this team because there is obviously Kyrie and KD are ultra important, but beyond that, it's Claxton because there's no replacement for him.
That's actually really the only argument, and it's a good one. It is a good one because when we talk about our depth, we're often in the previous episodes we've talked about how much depth we have at 3-point shooting until people get hurt. And that's a version of the argument which has a lot better support, or just that part of the rotation has a lot better support. So imagine what happens if Nick Claxton go down. I can't even speak that into the world.
Oh, get out.
Disgusting.
Okay, last question. AJG asks, "Hey Alex, hey glue guys."
May as well be.
What type of money would TJ Warren be looking at in the offseason if he keeps up this level of production? And would the Nets have a shot at re-signing him? Here's what I'll say. I don't know if the Nets have his bird rights which is a key question. Again, bird rights would allow you to go over the tax, over the cap itself to sign for whatever amount of money. If TJ Warren plays like he's playing now, he's going to be a non-taxpayer mid-level dude, which is about $10 million a year. The interesting thing is, like, what does TJ Warren want? Because the thing is, if you're a non-tax-paying team, you probably actually aren't that great. It's most teams who are non-tax-paying aren't the top contenders in the NBA.
Yeah.
TJ Warren wants to win, then he's probably gonna be the taxpayer mid-level type dude. And then the Nets have like as much of a chance as anyone because they can give taxpayer mid-level money to TJ Warren.
For
It's no
things like
problem.
this, I think it's important to kind of dig into the history of their contracts. Like, did TJ Warren ever get a fat paycheck? Because if not, then I do think it informs the situation.
I don't. Okay, he never got like the fat. He never got the bag,
Yeah.
as the kids say. But he got pouches of money.
Okay.
The pouches were to be had. I can look over TJ Warren's career. He's making 2.6 right now. There's probably some restrictions on how much of a raise the Nets can even give him. Do you know that there's usually like the problem with Yuta Watanabe, if we're gonna focus our attention on that, TJ's made about $57 million over his career. So fine, you know.
Yeah. It's
I would,
good. That's
I would
good.
take it.
Yeah, come on.
I would take it.
Look at us
Um,
turning our nose up.
Like whatever, not that good. Then so Yuta Watanabe, because he's on this non-guaranteed deal and he's making $2 million, the Nets can't pay him more than like 120% of his current salary next year, which means that he can't make more than, like, again, not the greatest mathematician, but about $2.4 million next year. Actually, I think that's right. Holler at my mathematics teachers. Whoop, whoop. Yuta is playing better than a guy who's going to make 2.4 next year. He's playing ball like a guy who's going to get the taxpayer, non-taxpayer mid-level, or even someone who gets like a legit, here's a 3-year, $36 million contract because
The Joe Harris contract.
he's a fun, flexible player. And if he keeps shooting 57% from 3 or whatever it is, he's gonna get money. So Yuta's probably not on the team next year, frankly.
Yeah, and I don't know why I actually don't see. I don't know. I got to see what the market is for Yuta, and like it's just like he's doing great in a pretty minimal role, like all things considered. He's getting more minutes, but it's still a very look at you getting comfortable.
I'm just like really so uncomfortable.
Are
I'm
you
so
on the beach
actually
right now?
uncomfortable.
It feels like you could be at the beach.
I'm in my childhood bedroom.
Ah,
That's where I am.
wow, a lot of demons in there. A lot of demons.
Sorry, wait. Okay. So anyways, so what? You don't believe in Yuta? Huh?
You've been, but maybe it's because you're back in your childhood bedroom that you're so bad faith with everyone's arguments here. It's not that I don't believe in Yuta. I just think that it's easy for another GM to maybe attribute his success to the circumstance, and I mean, like, look, he's playing so above and beyond anyone's wildest expectations, throwing a big bag and being like, I want you to replicate that on, wherever, put in random, like, somewhat competitive Team X. I don't know. That's tough. That's tough for me to say.
Yeah, he's still going to get more than $2 million.
Yes,
Like,
agreed. But not the.
So should they trade Yuta right now? Get out ahead of it? What can you get for Yuta? Can you get a first-round pick?
Stop. You stop that right now.
Anyways, so to sum up our conversation,
Okay.
TJ Warren he's playing his way into getting some type of bag that may price him out of the Nets, but let's enjoy the ride right now.
It's going to be like
just
this.
enjoy it.
Yeah, championship runs, they go like this. There's guys who were big, they seem irreplaceable. You get the chip and then, they move on to other things. But then, what we have here is it's starting to feel like a core we can kind of rely on until the next tweet or Instagram post that undoes. It sounds like you have a visitor in your room. Get a little visitor.
Hey, Rowie, we'll talk about it when the show's over, okay? I'm talking to my buddy Brian.
Yeah.
I know. So, listeners, what's happening now is my 4-year-old, he's playing with toys that is at his grandparents' house that he wants to bring home. And I kind of just said he could because I wanted him to leave the room. And I'm going to have to pull back. I'm gonna have, when this is over, I'm gonna have to get out and be like, hey, not happening.
You know, 5 years of therapy later, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah, it's worth it to end our podcast.
Yeah.
And one last note:
Mm-hmm.
if TJ Warren gets a bag and Yuta Watanabe gets a bag, it's only going to make other guys want to play for the Nets.
There you go.
Like
That's
if it all works out. Check us out on Twitter at PKGoogleGuys, NetsDaily.com, The Athletic. Thank you to Alex Schiffer for joining us on the show today. Thank you, Brian Egan, for always being here.
Got your back, dog. All right, we're out of here. Y'all.